Emma sat quietly in the living room, pretending to scroll through her phone, but her mind was racing. Just an hour ago, she had gone to the market to buy vegetables. On her way back, she had stopped near the small roadside shop to get bread, and that was when she saw it. Her mother, Mary, standing very close to a man who was not her father. At first, Emma thought it was just a casual chat. But then she noticed the way Mary was smiling, the way the man was holding her hand, and how they both laughed softly, leaning toward each other. Emma froze for a moment, feeling like she had stepped into the wrong place at the wrong time. She quietly turned away, deciding not to interrupt. When she got home, her heart wouldn't stop pounding. She didn't want to believe what she saw, but the image was too clear in her head. Her father, James, was at work, completely unaware of what had happened. Emma wondered if she should say something at all, but she couldn't keep it inside. After pacing for nearly 20 minutes, she gathered her courage and went to the kitchen where Mary was cooking. "Mom," Emma said softly, I saw you today. You were with a man at the shop. You were holding his hand and smiling at him like you were flirting." Mary froze, her hand still holding the spoon. She turned slowly, her face hard. "What did you just say to me?" she asked in a cold voice. Emma swallowed. "I'm not lying, Mum. I saw it with my own eyes." "Why would you?" Before she could finish, Mary's hand shot out and landed across her face with a loud slap. Emma's cheek burned instantly, and tears welled up in her eyes. She stood there, stunned, as her mother glared at her. "How dare you accuse me of such a thing?" Mary shouted. "Do you know what you're saying? Do you want to destroy this family?" Emma's lips trembled. She wasn't trying to destroy anything. She was only trying to understand. But in that moment, she realized that the truth didn't always bring closeness. It could also bring pain. Emma stood there, her palm pressed against her cheek, feeling the sting of her mother's hand. The sound of the slap still echoed in her ears. For a moment, the entire kitchen went silent except for the gentle bubbling of the stew on the stove. Mary's eyes were sharp, her lips pressed into a thin, trembling line, as if she was holding back more words, or maybe more anger. Emma blinked rapidly to stop her tears from falling. She had expected her mother to deny it, maybe even laugh it off, but she had not expected her to react with violence. "Mum, I wasn't trying to insult you," Emma said in a shaky voice. Enough." Mary cut her off, her voice rising. "You're my daughter. I am your mother. It's not your place to watch me or judge me. Do you understand?" Emma's throat felt tight. She wanted to argue, to tell her mother that respect should go both ways, that she had a right to be concerned when she saw something wrong. But something in Mary's eyes made her stop. They weren't just angry, they were fearful. It was the look of someone who had been caught in something they didn't want anyone to know. Without saying another word, Emma turned and walked to her room. She closed the door gently, sat on the edge of her bed, and finally let the tears fall. She felt small, powerless, and confused. Why would her mother react like that unless there was some truth to what she saw? For the rest of the evening, the house was filled with a heavy silence. Mary didn't call Emma for dinner, and Emma didn't go to the dining table. She stayed in her room, hugging her pillow. Her father came home late, whistling softly as he entered, completely unaware of the tension inside the walls of his own house. Emma listened to the sound of her parents talking in the living room. Mary's voice was unusually cheerful, laughing at his jokes, serving him food as if nothing had happened. Emma realized her mother was good at hiding things. Too good. As the night dragged on, Emma lay in bed staring at the ceiling. She knew her mother's slap wasn't just about disrespect. It was fear. Fear of being exposed. Fear of the truth coming out. And now Emma carried that truth alone, like a heavy stone in her chest. But she also knew something else. Truth had a way of forcing its way to the surface, no matter how hard you tried to bury it. The morning after the slap, Emma woke up to the smell of fried eggs and bread. She walked into the kitchen slowly, unsure how her mother would act. Mary was already dressed in a neat gown, her hair perfectly tied, humming softly as she arranged plates. "Good morning," Emma said quietly. Mary glanced at her for a second and then looked away. "Morning," she replied flatly, placing a plate on the table. There was no apology, no mention of what had happened. It was as if the slap and the accusation had never existed. Emma sat down, chewing her bread slowly. She wanted to ask her mother where she was going dressed so nicely, but she bit her tongue. She had learned that questions could be dangerous. Later that day, Mary told Emma she was going to the market. But something about the way she said it didn't sound right. Emma decided to follow her, carefully. She waited 5 minutes, then slipped out of the house and walked quickly, staying far enough behind so Mary wouldn't notice. Sure enough, Mary didn't go to the main market. Instead, she turned down a side street, heading toward a small cafe. Emma hid behind a wall and peeked. There was the same man from before, sitting at a table, smiling as Mary approached. Emma's heart sank. She could see the way her mother's face lit up, the way the man stood to pull out a chair for her. They looked like more than friends. Much more. She went back home before they could see her. She lay on her bed, her mind racing. She wanted to tell her father, but a voice inside her warned her, "If I tell him, our whole family could break apart." Over the next week, Emma kept what she knew to herself. She didn't speak much at home, answering her father's questions with short replies. James noticed something was wrong. "Emma, are you okay?" he asked one night at dinner. "I'm fine, Dad," she said, forcing a smile. Mary gave her a sharp glance, as if warning her not to say anything. That look told Emma everything. Her mother knew she still suspected her. The more Emma stayed quiet, the more her mother seemed to relax. But Emma's thoughts were not quiet. She kept replaying the scene at the cafe, the sound of her mother's laugh, the way that man's hand rested on hers. One evening, while Mary was taking a phone call in her room, Emma passed by the door and heard her say softly, "I miss you too. I'll see you tomorrow." Emma froze. She knew that voice wasn't for her father. Her stomach turned. At school, Emma couldn't concentrate. Her best friend, Lucy, noticed. "Emma, you've been so quiet lately. What's wrong?" Lucy asked. Emma hesitated. "It's about my mum. I think she's doing something bad. I saw her with a man, not my dad." Lucy's eyes widened. "That's serious. Are you sure?" "Yes, I'm sure." Lucy lowered her voice. "Emma, be careful. If you talk about this, it could cause big trouble in your family. And some parents will do anything to protect their secrets." Emma thought of the slap. She already knew Lucy was right. That Saturday, Mary told James she was going to a women's meeting. James nodded, thinking nothing of it. But when Mary was leaving, Emma asked quietly, "Is it a meeting, or are you going to see him again?" Mary stopped. Her face hardened. "Emma, you're walking on dangerous ground." "I just want to know why you're doing this," Emma whispered. Without warning, Mary slapped her again, harder than before. "Don't you ever speak to me like that again. If you respect me as your mother, you will keep your mouth shut." Emma bit her lip, holding back tears. She realized that her mother wasn't going to explain or stop. She was going to fight to hide it. James began noticing the tension between them. "Why is it that every time I come home, you two are acting like strangers?" he asked one evening. Mary laughed it off. "Teenage mood swings. You know how girls can be." James looked at Emma. "Is that true?" Emma opened her mouth to speak, but Mary's sharp glance cut her off. "Yes, Dad. I've just been moody." James didn't look convinced. 2 days later, Mary dressed up and left again. Emma couldn't resist. She followed her once more. This time, Mary and the man met in a park, sitting under a tree, sharing food from the same plate. Emma hid behind a bush, taking out her phone. Her hands shook as she snapped a photo. If she tries to deny it again, I'll have proof. Back home, Emma hid her phone under her pillow. But that night, while she was in the bathroom, Mary went into her room and found it. When Emma came back, her mother was holding the phone, looking at the photo. Without a word, Mary deleted it. "If you ever take a picture of me again, I will make sure you regret it," she said coldly. One evening, James returned from work earlier than usual. He went to the market and saw Mary walking with a man in the distance. She didn't see him, but it made him curious. When he came home, he asked Emma casually, "Do you know the man your mother talks to sometimes?" Emma froze. This was her chance. Emma opened her mouth and closed it again. She thought of the slaps, the threats, the possibility of her father confronting her mother in anger. "No, Dad. I don't know him," she said quietly. James nodded slowly, but the doubt in his eyes remained. A week later, there was a family gathering at an aunt's house. Mary was unusually cheerful, laughing and telling stories. Emma stayed quiet, but she noticed her mother sneaking away to answer her phone twice. One afternoon, Mary and Emma had a heated argument over something small, dirty dishes. But it quickly turned into something bigger. "You think you're so perfect, Emma," Mary said bitterly. "One day, you'll understand that life isn't black and white." Emma replied sharply, "One day, you'll understand that hiding the truth doesn't make it go away." Mary's face turned red with rage. Late that night, Emma passed by the living room and heard her mother whispering into her phone, "Yes, I love you too. I'll tell him soon." Emma's heart skipped. Tell him soon. Was Mary planning to confess to her father? Or was she planning to leave him? Emma didn't sleep that night. She knew something was about to happen. Her mother's secret was growing too big to hide. Her father's suspicions were increasing. And Emma was caught in the middle, holding the truth that could break her family apart. In her heart, she knew a storm was coming, and when it did, nothing would be the same again. The next morning, James was drinking his tea when he asked casually, "Mary, where exactly do you go every Wednesday afternoon? I've noticed it's become a routine." Mary didn't look up from her plate. "Women's fellowship at the church." James nodded slowly but said nothing. Emma watched him, realizing he didn't fully believe her. For the first time, Emma saw her father's eyes sharpen in suspicion. She knew that once James started looking, he would find answers. One Wednesday, James left work early without telling Mary. He decided to surprise her at the church meeting. When he reached the church hall, it was empty. Confused, he called one of Mary's close friends from the women's fellowship. "Mary!" "No, she hasn't been coming for weeks," the friend said. James felt his stomach tighten. That evening, he said nothing at home, but Emma noticed how quiet he was during dinner. She realized her father had just taken his first real step into the truth. A few days later, James went to buy bread and spotted the same man Emma had seen. The man smiled politely at him, but there was something in his eyes, nervousness. James didn't confront him, but he memorized his face. That night, James asked Mary, "Do you know a tall man with short hair who wears a leather jacket?" Mary froze for a second before shaking her head. "No. Why?" James didn't answer. Emma woke up at midnight to the sound of her parents' voices in the living room. "Why are you lying to me, Mary?" James's voice was calm but cold. "I'm not lying," Mary replied, but her tone trembled. "I went to the church. You weren't there." Emma held her breath, listening in the dark. The conversation ended with Mary storming into their bedroom and slamming the door. The next morning, Mary cornered Emma in the kitchen. "Have you been telling your father things about me?" she demanded. "No," Emma replied honestly. Mary narrowed her eyes. Good. Because if you do, I will make you regret it. Emma realized her mother was now desperate, and desperate people could be dangerous. A week later, James decided to follow Mary discreetly. He parked far from the cafe and watched as she met the man again. This time, they hugged, and the man kissed her cheek. James's hands clenched the steering wheel. His whole world shifted in that moment. That night, James didn't speak to Mary at all. He ate quietly, excused himself from the table, and went to bed early. Mary pretended not to notice, but Emma could feel the tension like heavy smoke in the air. The next day, James called Emma into his study. "Emma, have you ever seen your mother with another man?" Emma's hands went cold. She looked into her father's eyes and saw pain there. "Yes, Dad," she whispered. "I saw them twice. I even tried to take a picture, but she deleted it." James closed his eyes, his jaw tightening. "Thank you for telling me the truth." That evening, James confronted Mary directly. "I saw you. I followed you. Stop lying to me, Mary." Mary tried to deny it at first, but James's calm, steady voice broke through her defense. Finally, she sat down, buried her face in her hands, and said, "I didn't mean for it to happen." Emma, standing in the hallway, felt her heart pound. The truth had finally escaped. The conversation turned into a loud argument. James accused her of betraying their marriage. Mary accused him of neglecting her emotionally. Their voices rose, words sharp and painful. Emma sat on her bed, covering her ears, tears streaming down her face. For the next 3 days, the house was cold and silent. James slept in the guest room. Mary avoided eye contact with both of them. Emma felt caught in the middle, unsure whether she had done the right thing by telling her father. One evening, when James wasn't home, the man came to their gate. Mary spoke to him in hushed tones. Emma watched from her window. When Mary noticed her, she quickly sent the man away. That night, James told Mary he wanted space to think. "I'm staying at my brother's for a while," he said. Mary didn't argue. Emma felt a deep ache in her chest as she watched her father pack a small bag. With her father gone, Emma felt the weight of guilt pressing on her. She wondered if she should have stayed silent, if maybe things would have been better. But deep down, she knew her mother's actions were the real cause. A week later, James returned, not to stay, but to hand Mary a letter. "We need to talk properly, but not now," he said. Mary held the letter but didn't open it. Emma sat quietly, sensing that whatever was written inside would decide the future of their family. The truth was out, but the ending was still unwritten. Mary waited until nightfall to open the letter. Emma sat quietly in the living room, pretending to read a book while watching her mother's face. As Mary read, her expression shifted, from anger to guilt, then finally to tears. The letter was simple but heavy. "Mary, I loved you, and I still do. But trust is gone. I need to know if you want this marriage to work, or if you've already chosen another life. I will not fight a man for my wife. If you want to stay, we must rebuild from the truth. If you want to leave, I will not stop you. But I will not live in lies. James." Mary closed the letter slowly, wiping her eyes. She didn't say a word to Emma. That night, Emma could hear her mother pacing the living room. The floor creaked under her steps. Sometimes Mary stopped and sighed deeply, as if rehearsing what she would say to James. Emma stayed in bed, her heart pounding. She realized that even though her mother had hurt her, a part of her still hoped Mary would choose the right thing, to fight for their family. The next day, Mary called James. "Come home. We need to talk." When James arrived that evening, the air in the house felt heavy. Emma sat in her room but left the door slightly open. "I was wrong," Mary said softly. "I don't have an excuse. I was lonely, and I made a mistake. But I want to fix this. I want you. I want our family. James was silent for a long time. I can forgive, he said finally, but I can't forget. It will take time. And you have to prove that you're choosing me every day. Mary nodded. I will. Later that night, Mary came to Emma's room. She stood in the doorway for a moment before speaking. Emma, I'm sorry for hitting you. Twice. You didn't deserve that. You saw something I didn't want to admit, and you were brave enough to speak up. Emma's eyes filled with tears. Mom, I just didn't want our family to fall apart. Mary walked in and hugged her. For the first time in weeks, Emma hugged her back. It wasn't perfect, and the trust wasn't fully there yet, but it was a start. Weeks passed. James moved back into the house, and slowly, things began to change. Mary cut off all contact with the other man, focusing on her marriage. She started involving James more in her daily life, and they spent more time together as a family. Emma still remembered the slap, the fear, and the lies, but she also saw her parents trying. And in that effort, she found a small spark of hope. One Saturday morning, the three of them had breakfast together. There was laughter, not the forced kind, but the real warm kind that comes when people are beginning to heal. Emma knew they weren't the same family they used to be. But maybe, just maybe, they could become something better.